Hello and welcome back to TriggerSmart. Watching Candace, Baron, and Ian kind of reiterate some of the things that we've seen, go over like the latest evidence and information, and also kind of go down memory lane. Maybe we want to do the same, but this time for the FBI and how they've handled this investigation. So let's start off with this. Do you remember this interview?
It was about the time I saw them. So
how long ago was it?
I would say about 2 weeks ago.
And so they looked like they were couples?
Yeah.
And he was dressed all in black?
Yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm. And you thought he was weird?
Yeah, I definitely, yeah.
What was weird about him?
Just the way he walked and just the way I've seen him. I've never seen really anybody dressed all in black with a mask on, and I thought that was just quite...
Dressed all in black with a mask on. Strange walk. And they don't want us to see him in court walk in or out. They only let us see him sitting down or standing up. Very interesting. And then this, many of you have not heard this. This was a phone call about the supposed shooter that day.
Is going to be wearing all black, black long gun, black tactical helmet, a black mask, possibly wearing a tactical vest and jeans. Is going to be wearing all black, black long gun, black tactical helmet, a black mask, possibly wearing a tactical vest and jeans.
So this was the description of the shooter. And if you remember afterwards, some people got interviewed and they said they saw someone in black wearing tactical gear with a black long gun. Then they sold us this.
Correct. Yes. So when he's first spotted on campus, he has different clothing on, and then he changes clothing on the roof, and then changed back into that clothing at some point, so that when he was apprehended, when he was arrested, the clothing matched the clothing he had on before the shooting here at UVU.
That makes a lot of sense. And watching him explain this, he doesn't even believe it himself. Then we have Kash Patel himself.
It seems to me, complete operational failure in terms of protecting him. What's your reaction on that as more of those details have come out as well?
Look, I've done 50 trips with the president around the country, overseas, when he was in office and he's been out of office. I know the Secret Service guys really well. And it is a mechanical failure of epic proportions. And here's the thing. I have an op-ed coming out later on it. We cannot rely, in my opinion, on this FBI and this DOJ who set up Donald Trump, who tried to weaponize justice against him to kneecap him politically and take him out of the race. We cannot say, let them do their investigation.
I agree.
We cannot have Congress, where we have a Republican majority in the House, say, let the FBI and DOJ investigate. No, they lost that mandate. And also, Congress is a co-equal coordinate branch of government. So I outlined an entire investigative process. I don't want to get ahead of the facts. I don't want to say it was this person's fault or that group's fault or lack of funding or lack of resources. I want to find out the answers, and they should be giving the American people those answers on a daily basis. How
much information have we gotten from this FBI? Since all of this started, since Charlie was shot, there's been, 1 or 2 press conferences and no other information?
To my friend Charlie Kirk, rest now, brother. We have the watch, and I'll see you in Valhalla.
Y'all remember that? And a lot of people think that that's why maybe he faked his death or something similar. But just these very cryptic, very strange things, not to mention the fact that they said they caught him after 33 hours.
And just last night, the suspect was taken into custody at 10 p.m. local time. In less than 36 hours, 33 to be precise.
Less than 36, 33 to be precise. That's kind of strange. That's a strange way to say that. So obviously 36 hours is a day and a half, but to say, we got him in less than 50 hours, 33 to be precise. No one really talks that way. So very strange. Something is intentional. Maybe some form of messaging, subliminal. But basically the way this was handled was a huge mess. And I want to go through the timeline of all the stuff that we've seen up to this point through the FBI and the government. But real quick, I want to hear from you guys down in the comments. Do you think that Kash Patel and Dan Bongino and the Trump government did a good job handling this and being transparent with the people? What I did here is I used ChatGPT and information that I inputted, as well as Grok. And then I had Grok take the ChatGPT stuff and double check it and verify it, since it tends to be very left-leaning based on what I could see. And I made this compiled list of some stuff that's confirmed and some stuff that is alleged, and cover-ups and all those different things are all in one timeline. And we're going to review that. September 10th, 2025. Assassination and immediate response. 8:29 a.m. Suspect Tyler Robinson arrives on UVU campus in a gray Dodge Challenger, captured on surveillance footage. Official note, this establishes Robinson's premeditated presence per FBI surveillance analysis. 11:50 to 12:02. Robinson's movements are tracked on campus, including entering the Losi Center and accessing the roof. Official note, FBI timeline confirms these details via video evidence. Have they released that? Has anyone seen this? The stuff that we've seen so far was just snapshots or the person on the roof jumping down. We haven't seen anything else they're talking about here. 12:20 to 12:24. Charlie Kirk is fatally shot in the neck while speaking at an outdoor Turning Point USA event at UVU in Orem, Utah. The suspect is seen in footage climbing onto a rooftop, firing downward, then jumping off and fleeing into a nearby wooded area north of campus, leaving behind a rifle wrapped in a towel. Official note, fatal shot timed around 12:23, 12:24. Kirk pronounced dead at the scene. Okay. Now, we heard from the surgeon, supposedly, in the hospital, that there was a heartbeat and or they were able to resuscitate him and that he went into surgery. UVU issues an emergency alert at 12:48, claiming a suspect is in custody, adding to early confusion. Now, you remember that. They went through 2 or 3 different suspects, including the old man, George Zen, who is now in jail, and he's going through hearings for inappropriate possession of youthful adult material, we'll say. Public controversy and critique. Initial canine searches by police, these are bomb-sniffing dogs, reportedly swept the wooded area without finding the weapon. Now remember, these dogs are very highly trained. They can smell a tiny, tiny, minute amount of something from a decent distance and track just about anything. They didn't find it. It was only recovered after FBI agents arrived, raising suspicion of staging, which would be a lot of people's first thought, or oversight in social media threads and podcasts. So we had Stu Peters and Project Constitution talk about that. No official explanation for the delay in FBI reports. Witnesses and online commentators note not so loud, gunshot, and wound discrepancies, such as no exit wound, fueling conspiracy narratives. 12:26 to 12:36. Local dispatch audio reports gunshots and describes the suspect on the roof with a long rifle wearing black clothing. Official note, coordinated response begins between UVU Police, Orem PD, and the FBI. And now remember from the interview that we saw earlier and other reports from other people that they describe a person in all black with tactical gear, not just like a black t-shirt, right? And a mask. Some even saw like a mask or some kind of tactical headgear, right? Afternoon post-shooting. Robinson reportedly eats a medium rare steak out Cowboy Smokehouse Barbecue in Panguitch, Utah, and he pays with a credit card hours after the assassination. That does not sound like something that you would expect from a high IQ criminal. Why would you use your card and give away your position? We have also learned that Panguitch, Utah may be the location of his grandmother, or she may be nearby. So he may have went there, ate this steak with apparently mashed potatoes and vegetables, according to the staff there who contacted Candace. And they're saying that he was quiet and he didn't do much. He didn't really talk to anyone. He just ate, paid with his card, and then he left. That's a 3-hour drive from where he was at UVU, supposedly. Official note, FBI received over 7,000 tips during that manhunt. But this lead was allegedly ignored or overlooked, extending the 33-hour search despite card transaction traceability. So knowing that he was there, according to the staff that works there in Panguitch, Utah, it makes you wonder why the FBI would purposefully ignore a tip that he was there. Public controversy. Anecdotal reports on X and YouTube claim the FBI dismissed similar sightings and tips, criticized as investigative failures. No official FBI law confirms prompt action on this particular tip. 2:40 p.m. President Trump confirms Kirk's death on Truth Social. Official note, marks official White House acknowledgement. 4 o'clock p.m. Utah Governor Spencer Cox holds a press conference calling it a political assassination. and mentioning a person of interest in custody. Official note, it echoes the early FBI communications. And just a side note, clearly Charlie Kirk was not a politician. He had a lot of influence, and he had a huge role in President Trump getting reelected. But he is not a politician himself. Does that still identify as a political assassination? Possibly. 421, FBI Director Kash Patel tweets that the subject is in custody, the first of multiple premature announcements. Is that something that you would expect from a government that's efficient, following tips and being thorough? It seems as though he was more chasing attention and recognition than actually doing a thorough investigation. Official note, this aligns with the initial detentions. Public controversy, widely cited as a communication failure. Critics such as Senate Minority Whip Dick Durbin called it amateur hour. Social media highlighted how this fueled mistrust. 5:59 p.m. Kash Patel tweets the subject has been released after interrogation. 2 individuals were detained and released that day. 3 total, I believe, including a libertarian who falsely claimed responsibility, and that was George Zen. 1 charged with obstruction, but unrelated. Official note, clarification issued within approximately 2 hours. Public controversy, repeated misidentifications. A man who debated Kirk, a Toronto resident, spread online, though not directly FBI driven. Commentators on X accused the FBI of incompetence. Evening, first press briefing confirms Kirk's death. FBI and Utah Department of Public Safety coordinate. Patel reportedly dines at an exclusive restaurant just hours after the shooting and he vents angrily at staff for slow updates on suspect photos. Interesting. Official note, ongoing investigation announced after previous misidentifications. Public controversy. Leaked 115-page report from retired agents criticizes Patel's inexperience, micromanagement, and over-disclosure, potentially distracting from tips. Again, focusing on self, focusing on recognition, focusing on trying to look good, as opposed to actually doing a good job and being thorough. September 11th, manhunt and evidence recovery. 7 a.m. Investigators announced recovery of the alleged murder weapon, a vintage Mauser 30-06 bolt-action rifle in the wooded area, along with impressions in the roof. Official note, weapon flown to Quantico for analysis. The images that we saw were supposedly not the official weapon. Described in reports, but no public images were released on the gun or the bullets. Now, the bullets, they were saying, were engraved from this trans-Tifa type of movement, supposedly. There were no pictures. Public controversy. Dogs reportedly missed the gun earlier. Discovery only after FBI arrived, sparking staging theories on X and YouTube. Lack of imagery fosters speculation. Critics demand transparency. Early leaks claimed politically charged engravings. Later clarified as non-political cultural references, not confirmed in official bulletins, so they walked it back. 9:58 a.m. Releases the first photos of a person of interest. Public assistance is requested. 10:44 a.m. The FBI officially offers $100,000 reward for information aimed at accelerating tips. This is not uncommon. They've done it before. 5:30 p.m. Patel and Deputy Director Dan Bongino arrive on scene. Official note, leadership oversight begins. 6:17. FBI releases more suspect photos and video of the shooter fleeing. Official note, enhances public identification efforts. 7:30 p.m. Press conference reports over 7,000 tips and 200 interviews. Official note, emphasizes community involvement. Despite volume, leads like the steakhouse sighting allegedly delayed. Social media claims systematic secrecy and ignored family and Discord tips. Now, if you remember, there was the entire Discord log, I guess, conspiracy that came out, and it showed the way that they lived and interacted with each other, and pictures that Lance Twiggs supposedly drew and how dirty the house was and all these different things. That has since been, I wouldn't say it's been debunked or anything, but it was just very interesting, and the timing was interesting. So people question the validity. 10 p.m. Robinson turned in by his father, who recognized him from photos and arrested in Washington, Utah, transferred to FBI custody. Official note, he confesses or implies involvement. Family friend facilitates surrender at sheriff's office. So according to this, it's saying the father recognized him and turned him in, but a family friend facilitated the surrender. And there was a pastor, supposedly, maybe like some retired sheriff or something that was involved in the surrender. Now, we do know that there's no footage now of that surrender. And there is like a 30-day period where if you don't use certain footage or need certain footage, then they just let it get recorded over. They can't keep all footage forever. So this footage was not recorded or kept, and or was allowed to be recorded over because it wasn't requested. Now, you would think him turning himself in at the sheriff's office would be pretty important information. September 12th through the 16th, arrest confirmation, charges, and narrative development. Now, I would argue that the narrative developed immediately when people said it was a gunshot, a 30-06, and that there were these, they said cultural, right? But hate speech basically carved into the cartridge casings. September 12th, Trump announces suspect in custody on Fox and Friends. National confirmation. Guys, we got him. September 12th, 7 a.m. Press conference identifies Robinson. Authorities claim he acted alone, tying to digital evidence, including monitoring Kirk's schedule, chat messages, etc., characterized as obsession with Kirk messaging. Now, remember that the parents supposedly said that he had been more radicalized in the last year or so, and that he was saying specific things about Charlie Kirk, saying that he was spreading hate. Okay? September 13th through the 14th, FBI emphasizes Robinson's ties to transgender partner Lance Twiggs, transitioning male to female, who cooperates with texts about the rifle and motives linked to Kirk's hatred. Governor Cox and Patel amplify this. Heritage Foundation petitions for transgender ideology-inspired violent extremism, TIV designation. Official note, partner's identity initially hidden for cooperation. So that means the FBI knew about this connection between them and hid it at first. Now, we haven't heard from Lance Twiggs since. He could be in protection. We don't know. He wasn't in court either. Critics argue that this pushes an anti-trans agenda. Early false online links to trans individuals fueled debate. Social media sees it as narrative framing to deflect from other possible motives. September 15th, FBI announces DNA match from Robinson to rifle, towel, and screwdriver. This strengthens the case. Now remember that DNA being on the rifle doesn't mean anything because he owned the rifle, or his father did, and he probably shot it. They also mentioned that there was multiple people's DNA now on this rifle. So to say that because the rifle had his DNA on it, he's guilty, doesn't make a lot of sense yet. The towel we supposedly saw when he jumped off the roof, it is damn near impossible to see any of that. But if you zoom in and play it slow, you can see something, right? It feels like there's something there. And then the screwdriver, I've heard multiple stories about this, but he clearly didn't have time to take it apart. And he clearly wouldn't take time to put it back together to throw it into the forest. So the screwdriver never made sense. And I think they walked that back later because they had to. September 16th, Robinson charged with aggravated murder. Prosecutors seek the death penalty. Patel testifies before Senate Judiciary Committee defending the investigation. Formal charges are filed. Now remember, I've covered this. There were interviews. Many different layers of people said death penalty right away. He should get the death penalty. I recommend the death penalty. So that seemed very strange that they were pushing so hard immediately for the death penalty. September 17th, Patel testifies before the House Judiciary Committee. DOJ removes study on far-right violence from website post-assassination. Official note, ongoing oversight, seen as politically motivated suppression. All right, now post-September 2025, we have the ongoing investigation up through January 7th. Ongoing post-arrest. Patel blocks National Counterterrorism Center Director Joe Kent's review of FBI files for foreign involvement accomplices, viewing it as overreach. Now, this is extremely important. We have Patel blocking Kent, and Kent's whole purpose was to review the FBI files for foreign involvement. Many people do believe that there was a foreign nation state involved in this, which also means that could also imply our own government's involvement in this, allegedly, right? So it's very interesting that Patel worked so hard to block this investigation. This leads to the White House meeting with DNI Tulsi Gabbard and VP J.D. Vance, who Nicki Minaj called an assassin. Patel accuses Kent of interfering. Utah prosecutors maintain the lone wolf narrative. Public unity statements are issued, and the controversy, Candace Owens and others, alleged cover-up tying to Epstein file suppression and foreign ties. Leaked reports criticize Patel's tirades. Social media demands transparency on evidence. Weapon photos, ballistics, which we are still waiting for. December 11th, 2025. Robinson's first in-person court appearance. Procedural milestone. The primary purpose of that appearance was to decide if media could be present. Could cameras be used in court? And as of right now, it appears that yes, they can be. December 20th. Patel's testimony includes Epstein-related criticism over case handling. Broader context provided. January 2026, Dan Bongino resigns as FBI Deputy Director after less than a year. Citing return to his show per President Trump, immediately attacks black pillars and grifters in conservative movement on X, vowing not to let them hijack MAGA. So I have a feeling Dan Bongino is going to start ripping into everyone who has anything to say against the current administration. And he might have been more useful in this way than he was in the FBI. Maybe that's the reason for this. His resignation was announced. Public controversy follows clashes over Epstein files and Kirk case, speculated to allow freer commentary on cover-ups. X discussions linked to targeting creators questioning the official narrative. Okay, so that's a good overview of the timelines for the FBI and kind of what we've gotten from them so far. Now, we're just going to go over some general notes, narratives, and possible critiques, and then we're going to wrap this up. So first, we'll cover the weapon, the 30-06. Official descriptions exist, but no FBI released images of rifle or bullets, fostering lots of speculation. Engravings clarified as non-political, but early leaks tied to trans motives unverified. That is what they said initially in the press conference. And since then, it's kind of just been allowed to fade away. People have been testing the 30-06, including frangible rounds, which I've done, as well as Jesse and Heavy Duty Country. And we did not see any case yet where the wound that we saw without an exit wound would match anything that we've seen in testing. Is there a chance that that 1 in a million shot happened and it's a magic bullet? Possibly, but it's very unlikely. Then we have ignored tips and lead handling. We have the steakhouse sighting and similar, stem from social media complaints, not official logs perceived as failures. Then we have the trans narrative being pushed, amplified by FBI Patel, seen as biased deflection, and possibly an attempt to start a war between the left and the right, more division. It's not uncommon in these type of situations to push your specific agenda. And we know whenever there's a shooting, one side always pushes gun control, for example. Leadership critiques. Patel's premature announcements, blocking of foreign probes, which is huge, and Bongino's exit targeting of critics highlight internal tensions and possibly disagreements. Public discourse. We have conspiracies, staging foreign ties, dominating X and YouTube. Citizen journalists are demanding fuller evidence release. Now, could you imagine if they were to release the evidence? Maybe Tyler sitting up there on the roof, eating a Nature Valley bar, hurts his tooth, pulls up the gun, takes a shot, all on beautiful 4K video, right on the roof where there's cameras right next to him. That could allow a lot of people to move on with their lives and not be so obsessed with all this research and all these different theories. But they're not releasing anything. And it could be for good reason. It could be because it could hurt the case in some kind of way. I don't see how, but that could be a possibility. And then my sources here. If anything isn't perfect, put it down in the description. If there's something else you know, if there's something I missed, if there's something that should have been on the timeline, put that down below, because I would love to not only get on the same page as everyone else, but also correct myself if I was wrong in something that was on here. Because again, this was pulled from AI. And this used FBI press releases, timelines, bulletins, all the different news sites, leaked reports, social media, and Wikipedia, and basically every possible source it could find to compile this list. So now that we've reviewed the FBI timeline and mistakes and lack of transparency and internal turmoil, I'd love to hear your thoughts down in the comments. Let me know. Do you think that the current administration's FBI and intelligence is doing a good job? Do you think they're hiding something in this case? Do you think that this was fabricated? Do you think there's nation states involved outside the U.S.? Put it down in the comments. And as always, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this around. And for anyone looking to support the channel, you can find links down in the description. And I'll see you on the next one.